Did you know that the Clarion Call is a nonprofit organization? Did you know that this TV show is a tool our nonprofit uses to help reach the community? Did you know that the Clarion Call has program services to support families in the community? I didn't think you knew. So grab your pen and paper. Today we learn all about the Clarion Call, what we do and why we do it.
Sergeant Hopper saw lots of casualties, IEDs, and when he came back, he was a different man.
I can't sleep. All I think about is these negative thoughts. I just walked up to my CO saying, "Sir, I need some help." From that day on, when I would go to get treatment, things started getting better.
Returning to full health and clearances, I actually respect him and trust him more now because of the fact that he had a problem, he brought it to me, we fixed it, and he's as good or better Marine now and in the future.
It takes real strength to swallow your pride and say, "I need help," and get the help.
Hello and welcome to the Clarion Call show. I am Janice Liggins, your host. Today's show takes on a life of its own, very different from our previous shows. There are 3 goals for this show, and we need your help to help us to reach each goal. So jot down Clarion's email address right now and our website. At the end, send us an email to let us know what you've learned today. We want you to learn what we do and why we do it. We want you to learn something new about systemic community challenges. We want you to support our work by going to our website, to volunteer or provide other support. The Clarion Call is a nonprofit organization. I am the founder and executive director. The Clarion Call is registered with the IRS as a 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit, which means that all donations made to the Clarion Call are tax deductible. Our mission is to disrupt the prison pipeline by serving children of the incarcerated and their families. So why the focus on disrupting the prison pipeline? Because the United States is the largest incarcerator in the world. No other country locks up more of its people than the United States. In fact, 1 in 4 people in the entire world who are incarcerated are in prison right here in the United States. 1 in 4, not 1 in 400, not 1 in 1,000, but 1 in 4. The United States has only 5% of the world's population, but it has 25% of the world's inmates. Why? Because prisons are really big business. They're traded on Wall Street. Prison populations grew by 500% over a 30-year period. Locking up people for money has made a lot of people very wealthy. The interesting thing is, a few years ago, I knew nothing about the prison pipeline or mass incarceration. In fact, I didn't even know the difference between a jail and a prison, nor could I tell you where one was located, and I was very proud of that. I was very proud of the fact that I didn't know the difference between a jail and a prison or anything else about prisons, because that meant that world doesn't touch my world. But pride is blinding, and I was blind. My one and only brother had served time. He was a heroin addict who stole to support his habit. He got time instead of treatment. Yes, my one brother has been in prison. So how could I say that that world doesn't touch my world? I was blind as a bat to the war that was waging right under my nose. In 2009, I sensed that something was going wrong in the community. Just looking around me, looking at men and looking at young boys in the community, I began to perceive that just something was very wrong. And I knew it was pervasive. I even put that on my application when I applied to Leadership Maryland. It took a visit to a maximum security prison in Cumberland to wake me up, to open my eyes. I was with Leadership Maryland in the class of 2010. There were 52 participants in our group. We were broken up into small groups of 6 so we could have an intimate tour of this massive facility. Seeing the masses of black faces behind bars, contrasted with those in uniform, was breathtakingly stark. As I passed an inmate who was being escorted, I said, "Hello." Each of 5 different inmates said hello and spoke back. I saw men who looked like my family, who looked like my friends, who looked like my neighbors, members of my church. I didn't see men who were monsters. I didn't see throwaways. I asked during the tour to go inside one of the cells. The other 5 in my small group said, "I want to go, I want to go." Well, I really didn't want them to go with me into that cell because, trust me, we were not having the same experience. Once inside, I asked the officer to close the door. He asked, "Are you sure, ma'am?" And I said, "Close the door." When I heard the clink of that cell door closing, my life changed. There had to be a reason why so many black faces were behind bars with all non-black faces in uniform. I knew nothing about nothing, but I knew something was very wrong. The next year, in 2011, I sat at home and I did research. All I did was research. For the entire year, I sat at home and I did research. What I learned was compelling. I had to act. At the end of the year, I had enough information to connect the dots. Just as I was blind, I knew there are many others who are totally blind to the systemic challenges that are right under their nose. I am compelled, even called, to alert the community to the many challenges that are hidden in plain sight. The Clarion Call is indeed a calling for me. The scripture the Lord gave me for the Clarion Call is, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." So if you know there's a pothole ahead, then you'd know to go around the pothole, you know to avoid it. That's what we do. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. So now, what did we do? What did we do with the research that we gathered in the beginning? Stay tuned, that's next.
Tolerance for one another, because that ties in with respect.
The world to me is the person next to you, that the person that you're passing on a street at that moment.
The land, the water, that's our church. That's who we are.
I ain't no different than you ain't no different than me, he ain't no different than she. 'Cause we're all one love, one love, one love.
Thanks for being with us. As we continue our introduction of the Clarion Call as a 501c3 nonprofit, why is it imperative to engage families in understanding systemic community challenges? What types of challenges did I discover during my year-long research project? The school-to-prison pipeline is a well-oiled machine. It started in the 1980s. Zero tolerance laws and policies of the 80s criminalized just minor infractions of school rules. Principal Joe Clark forced out 300 troublemaker students at Eastside High School in New Jersey. He was known as the Rambo of public education and became a hero. There was a lot of public outcry for very difficult, much more difficult and strenuous laws to be passed. So Joe Clark loved all of it as Rambo. He even had a movie themed after his strong stance. It's called Lean on Me. Remember that back in 1989? The problem is that we must be very, very careful in demanding tough laws because, unfortunately, those laws are not always applied in a balanced manner across racial lines. Even the Department of Education points out disparity in suspension rates, indicating that black boys are 3 times more likely to get suspended than white boys. And worse, black girls are 6 times more likely to get suspended than white girls. We also found that 1 out of 3 black boys born in this country in 2001 are at risk of imprisonment during their lifetime. 1 out of 3. So which 2 of these 7 young boys would you pick out to be incarcerated? Another thing we learned was that 3rd graders who are not proficient in reading are statistically slated for prison. Why? Well, reading stops generally in the 3rd grade. From K4 to 3rd grade, children are learning to read. From the 4th grade on, they then are reading to learn. How can they read to learn if they never learn to read? So what happens in the 4th grade is the teacher is asking them to perform tasks that they have no knowledge of how to do because they cannot read. They begin to get frustrated because they don't figure out that it's because they can't read. They just don't know why it is things are all of a sudden different in the 4th grade. They become the class clown. They become the class bully because, you know what? Nobody picks with the class clown. Nobody picks with the class bully. And the frustration is just there being camouflaged. The acting out is a camouflage for their frustration. They need to learn how to read. More effort needs to be done in getting early childhood education in reading. Then another thing we learned, 6th grade predictors are used to project 12th grade graduation likelihood. Well, what does that mean? In the 6th grade, the public school information is really public information. And so there are a lot of organizations who look at this information and they use it for their own benefit, their own long-term projections. In the 3rd grade and in the 6th grade, public school information is being used by public companies, private companies, who are actually using it for their own benefit. For example, private prisons rely on public information for business growth projections and for construction plans. The average reading level of a male prison inmate is 3rd grade. That is not by accident. The largest private prison in the country is Corrections Corporation of America, or CCA. They were under a lot of fire when mass incarceration was heavily discussed during the time President Obama was in the White House. In fact, they came under so much heat that they actually renamed the company to CoreCivic. Well, whether you are Corrections Corporation of America or CoreCivic, they're doing the exact same thing. They just have different names to their companies. But if you have an investment portfolio, then you please check your investment portfolio to see if you have CCA or CoreCivic listed as in your portfolio. You may actually be contributing and helping to that well-oiled machine continue to run. 2/3 of youth who are incarcerated come from families that already have an incarcerated member. Familiarity breeds consent. So 2/3 is a big number of all of the youth who are incarcerated. 2/3 of them, a huge number, is coming from families that already have an incarcerated person. The Clarion Call aims to reduce that 2/3. We even found further that children are being handcuffed and treated like criminals. No child should ever have handcuffs on for some minor incident. That is a traumatic experience that could very likely be with that child well into adulthood. Now, while a lot of this data applies nationwide, we must also recognize that here within the state of Maryland, Prince George's County comes in third highest in prison admissions amongst counties in the state. Our goal is to reach as many families as we can to ensure that they are no longer blind to these and many other systemic community challenges. And indeed, there are tons of other systemic community challenges. We believe that to be forewarned is to be forearmed. There's so much more that we can do, and there's so much more that we have in line to do. So what have we done in reaching out to the people in the community? That's next. Stay tuned.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
To disrupt the prison pipeline, we've learned that attention precedes participation. Our community engagement and education programs are designed to educate families on systemic challenges and then coach them to navigate these challenges to build a positive path forward. I started presenting my information at community forums around the metropolitan areas, in churches, community centers, homes, banquet halls, wherever I was invited or wherever we could host. The Clarion Call has conducted 32 community forums within the metropolitan area with over 600 participants. Evaluation data from those forums reveal several interesting factors. One, 80% of the attendees had no knowledge that third graders who are not proficient in reading are statistically slated for prison. Even more, 95% of those attendees had no knowledge that there are sixth grade predictors that project 12th grade graduation likelihood. 90% of attendees also were totally unaware of the school to prison pipeline. They had never even heard the term school to prison pipeline. And 100% of them were not aware of the cradle to prison pipeline. The cradle to prison pipeline and the school to prison pipeline are indeed real. They are indeed in play. They are indeed having tremendously negative impacts on our communities, particularly communities, the Black communities, and the poor communities even more so. 65% of attendees who were honest enough to admit it had a family member who is or has been incarcerated. Well, this is a very significant fact because 2/3 of youth who are incarcerated come from families that already have an incarcerated member. So we have families who are not even aware of the impact that having a person in their family who's been incarcerated tremendously increases the risk of their younger person in that household or even in their family to be able to go to prison also. These are things that families need to know. The Clarion Call researches and monitors multiple interrelated challenges and policies that affect vulnerable communities. We then use workshops and forums and one-on-one counseling to educate families on the urgency of proactively and positively engaging their youth. In 2015, the Clarion Call established a court-ordered community service initiative. With that, we wanted to assist young men who had an encounter with the court system to carry out their court-ordered hours. Well, the nature of the program we established was train the trainer, where once learning of systemic challenges themselves, the young men engaged in community outreach. They had to inform others of the same information that they had learned. The program was exceptionally successful in that while the young men earned their community service hours, they were also performing outreach and educating others about systemic community challenges that they had just learned. One of the 3 young advocates stated that he was so glad to have learned the information because he could easily have become a statistic himself under a local law that he had no idea even existed. By sharing the message with others, the young men were empowering themselves through internal positive reinforcement. The Clarion Call also collaborates with nonprofit providers across multiple different categories to design a holistic approach to care coordination. And we ensure that we effectively are supporting each family. We work with other nonprofits in a number of different sectors, depending on whatever that family member might need. We connect with the family to the organization who will then provide the service they need while we continuously monitor their care coordination. We put together a success plan for each family member to make sure that they are on a positive track forward. In addition to collaborating with nonprofits, we even promote the other nonprofit partners to the community through this very television program. We have proudly hosted over 20 nonprofits and even 2 county agencies on this very show. We interview the nonprofit partner, the partner's executive director here on the show to highlight their programs and discuss the benefits that they offer the families in the community. As a matter of fact, a major facet of our community engagement and education initiative is designed to extend our reach into the community, and that is this very show, the Clarion Call TV show. This show serves as a platform to educate the community on issues and challenges and organizational resources that are available to the families. The Clarion Call TV show is designed to accomplish 3 things, 3 objectives. For one, we want to expose the community to local available resources by hosting other nonprofit leaders and showcasing their services to the community. And then number 2, we want to educate the community on systemic challenges while also offering solutions through panel discussions. We've had subject matter experts on topics such as behavioral health and domestic violence, mass incarceration, reentry, homeless youth, and the impact of trauma on children. And then third, we want to showcase young achievers in areas such as education, technology, entrepreneurship, as a way of encouraging young viewers that they can do the same to excel. Over the last 5 years, the Clarion Call has performed a variety of community engagement and education activities, including the fact that we have conducted 32 community forums with over 600 attendees. We've held 2 town halls, both of which were co-hosted by Bowie State University and was held on the campus of Bowie State University. One town hall was a town hall on mass incarceration in April of 2016. Another town hall that we did at Bowie State University was a town hall on police community relations. That was October of 2016. We also hosted 2 Men Speak engagements. This is an open forum setting where men discuss the issues of their concern that help to propagate the epidemic of mass incarceration. We launched the Clarion Call TV show, with now 43 shows already produced, and we've raised awareness about youth homelessness, domestic violence, reentry, the impact of trauma on children, and more. We've hosted 20 nonprofits on the show, including The Training Source, Mentoring to Manhood, Fame, Take Charge, EduCirc, and many others. We've hosted county agencies on this show, including Adams House, and 3 agencies when the county was having a discussion of their youth reach enumeration project. This was in a matter where there were a number of homeless youth in the county, and the county wanted to be able to count and determine where each of them were. The county put on the enumeration project where actually they went out to count all of the homeless youth. We were very much pleased to be able to showcase that information to the public. We've hosted guests on the show, such as David Harrington, Sheriff Melvin High, Congresswoman Donna Edwards, and Delegate Eric Barron. We've hosted panel discussions with subject matter experts on topics such as mass incarceration, police relations, behavioral health, being spiritually grounded, and mass incarceration. We've provided the court-ordered community service hours for those young men we spoke of, and we've counseled and referred over 50 family members to other nonprofit providers for support. Today, on this show, the focus has been on the Clarion Call, because we want to be sure that you know what we do and why we do it. We ask now that you do 2 things. Send us an email to let us know what you learned on this show. If you've learned anything about the Clarion Call, let us know that. If you've learned anything about the systemic challenges in the community, let us know that as well. Let us know that if you like what we're doing, please let us know that you like what we're doing. Visit our website, would you, and support our work. We are only at the beginning of what we can do to stem the flow of youth toward the prison system. We need your help to do it. We need your help to get it all done. So help us to help those who are most vulnerable. Please visit our website, won't you, at www.theclarioncall.info for more information. That's it for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next time, won't you, for the Clarion Call. Until then, I'm Janice Liggins. Blessings to you.
I am for the child who lives in motels, cars, and shelters, now in foster care, a group home, where he sleeps not on a bed, but on a temporary cot. He is the child I am for. I am a CASA volunteer. I am you.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's the people. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? Because love has no labels.